Welcome to the Matchfit Conditioning Podcast. Transforming over 100,000 footballers worldwide. Everything we do is aimed at enabling you to gain an edge completely by yourself without needing help from a training partner or teammate. Open yourself to doing things smarter and with more intention, focus and attention to detail than your teammates, opponents and even your coaches. Are you ready to get match fit?
So what I'm trying to get across in this video is that you can do work to stop yourself getting injured, but it's really important that you don't rush yourself back to trying to play before you're ready, because that can lead to a whole other load of issues further down the line. And I know injuries suck, and it might mean that you're missing out on a cup match or a big game that you really want to play in, and your coach really wants you to play in as well. But long term, it's just not worth the risk. And I've got two examples to prove this. One of them is myself, and another one is a video. If you're on our email list, you might have seen a while back. I sent out an email about a video that was done on BT Sport on the panel there, and Owen Hargreaves is in the video, and also Glenn Hoddle's there as well. And Owen Hargreaves is talking about how he, when he suffered with injuries and how he was in so much pain when he was at home, and how he kept trying to play through it, and he kept trying to come back even though he was still injured. He was playing through pain and things like that. And then Glenn Hoddle comes out with a comment. Bear in mind, Glenn Hoddle is also a very experienced manager and experienced player as well. But it just shows that just because you're a good manager or a good player doesn't mean you actually have the awareness about things like injuries and the science behind them. So Glenn Hoddle said something like, yeah, it's important that players learn that they have to cope and they have to learn how to play with injuries. And that was just a ridiculous comment, and Owen Hargreaves stopped him in his tracks straight away and said, do you know what, Glenn, I wish that I hadn't tried to keep playing. I should have just stopped. Because if you try and play with an injury and you keep trying to play on that injury, not only are you not playing to your full potential, and that's really frustrating in itself. If you do it over time, people are going to think that your form's dipped. They're not going to necessarily know that you're injured, and that's going to be their impression of you as a player. But what also happens is your movement mechanics start to change to compensate for the injury, and you get overloads in other areas of your body, and that can lead to further injuries down the line. So now not only are you playing not to your potential, you're carrying an injury that hasn't recovered properly. You're actually setting yourself up for further injury down the line. And this is something that a lot of coaches don't understand, especially under professional level. It is stupid to just try and play with an injury, because even though that might be good short term, if you can take part in a game that the coach is really desperate for you to play in, long term you're really going to screw yourself over. Especially you get even small injuries like hamstring injuries, like a grade 1 strain. If you keep trying to play through that'll just keep bothering you for the rest of the season or season after season if you don't get it sorted. So it's better to take a longer amount of time out now and get it sorted properly and rehab it properly and return when you're actually ready, than trying to play through pain just so you can be involved, because long term it's just the worst thing you can do. And an example of myself here, you may or may not know that I was out injured for 4 years, and that actually started with a collision that happened in a match that I thought was just a slight groin strain, and that's what the physio said. And week after week with that injury, I kept trying to play. So what was happening is I would miss training during the week and then agree with the coach that I'd play at the weekend, and I'd either get through the warm-up or start the game, and the problem would just come back and I'd have to come off. And that happened repeatedly for about 10 to 12 weeks probably. The injury just got worse and worse and worse. It led to other injuries as well, and to cut a long story short, it led to me being told I'll never play football again. And I actually did eventually make a comeback, but I was out for 4 years because of that. And if I just got the injury properly diagnosed first time round and done the appropriate work, and even if it was meant I would be out for a year just to let that recover, that's better than one, being told you never play again, and two, being out for 4 years. So you've got to be really careful with these. I know it's hard to not let your emotions get the better of you and just try and do everything you can to play, but long term it's not a good thing to do. So obviously you can do things like injury prevention work, which will greatly reduce your chance or your risk of being injured. So if you're not doing that at all, then you need to start doing that. If your team is picking up a lot of injuries, then it's a reflection that, one, the other players in your team aren't doing enough work away from team training, and two, that your sessions with your team aren't effective and they're not focusing on necessarily the right areas to help develop the player's strength and conditioning to be able to withstand the forces that you're going to experience on the pitch. And of course the other thing is freak accidents that can happen in matches. That's just a part of football, but really you should be wanting to do everything you can to try and reduce your risk of injury so that you can stay on the pitch longer, rather than being reactive and reacting to, oh, I've picked up a bit of a niggle, what can I do now to try and get myself back as quick as possible. Try and be proactive and do the things before you're even injured, so that you're reducing your risk of injury to start with. That's definitely the best way to go. This stuff's proven by research, backed by science. There are things you can do to help greatly reduce your risk of many common football injuries, and if you're not doing them, then you're sort of, maybe you might be a ticking time bomb. You know, some players are lucky in that naturally their genetics means that they can cope with the forces that are experienced during football better than other players, but still there's no negatives from doing injury prevention work, and it's only low intensity stuff, so it's not going to greatly fatigue you. You should definitely be trying to fit this into your schedule as much as you can. So yeah, I'm basically saying the thought of this lesson, because I get lots of players messaging saying that they've been injured and they're ready to come back and sort of join into team training sessions again, but they're still sort of feeling the injury a little bit and they're not quite ready to come back, and that's just setting yourself up for re-injury straight off the bat. So it's frustrating, but put the time in to getting your injury sorted first. I know your friends are going to want you to play, your family's going to want you to play, the coach is going to want you to play, but you've got to put yourself first and you've got to think long term with injuries.
Thanks for tuning into the Matchfit Conditioning Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with one of your teammates. To learn more about the Matchfit method and to start your training with us, visit www.matchfitconditioning.com. We'll show you how to gain an edge on the pitch at an elite level by transforming your fitness level, nutrition, and mindset.